everybody. Happy office hours. It's Tuesday here in the US, if you're in the US. And we are so excited about tonight's office hours. We're here with Danny Warrington. We're talking about rider falls, the myths behind that, and he's just going to kind of pull back the curtain on a lot of things regarding rider falls and rider safety. And we can go down any path. If we're not going down it and you want to go down it and you're listening live, definitely chime in the chat and we can dig into whatever part of it you want. But we will definitely have more than enough to talk about to fill this hour today. I think just about everybody listening has probably listened to Danny's In Stride episode with Sinead that was released somewhat recently, and it's one of our most listened to episodes. So it's definitely a topic that interests people, and it should interest people. So we're happy to see that. Danny is the founder of LandSafe, and we'll get more into why LandSafe exists, what they do, but also a former leading steeplechase rider, advanced 3-day eventer. His story is really fascinating, just the more and more I get into it. So Danny, will you kind of take us back to the beginning of getting introduced to riding, becoming an upper level rider, and the various disciplines, just kind of what that path looked like for you initially?
Yeah, sure. So I'm one of those lucky ones, right? Like I started riding when I was 3. I went on my first fox hunt off the line when I was 5. My dad whipped for Vic Mead hunt out of Warwick, Maryland, and I just grew up fox hunting. And I did a little bit of pony clubbing, but and I had a great pony club. Like I pony clubbed with Beal Morris, right? The Plums, Learsy and Jenny Dupont. Like I was very lucky. The Middletown Pony Club at the time was a very strong pony club. Lana Wright was in charge of that, and it was just an amazing, lucky experience. Very young, 8 to sort of 12, 13 years old. But then I found racing, and that was a problem. So off I went to the racetrack because I thought all of the grooming and things weren't really my deal. I really, really appreciated going fast and galloping fast, which then sort of led to me growing to be over 6 foot, nearly 6'1", which really limited my flat jockey opportunities. So I sort of had to be down the steeplechase road. And then I went to work for Mikey Smithwick at 15 and got a pretty good leg up there, and ended up working for Gene Weymouth in Pennsylvania at Delaware Park and started riding races. I rode my first race at 17. And I did that for quite a while. I was about 28. And so it just was great. Then, I took a sabbatical from the horses for a little bit. And when I came back, I sort of came back into racing, actually working for Michael Dickinson down here in Maryland. And did that, worked for Michael Matz at the track for a little bit. Meanwhile, I had picked up a horse off the track when I was up in New England in my fishing charter days during my sabbatical. And I claimed a horse out of Rockingham Park, and he ended up going all the way to advanced. So all of a sudden now I'm an advanced rider, which was never the intent, like absolutely never the intent. I bought him to sell him, and he had a spur in his hock and didn't, the whole story, like everybody's story of the horse that took them to it. And he ended up going advanced and sure enough made a career out of it. And did that for a while, sort of chasing the dream. And then at 45 years old, I'm a little slow. Like I was breaking a lot of bad horses. That's kind of the way I made my living, was fixing problem horses. And we were laughing with one of the guys today that we rented their farm for quite a while. And we had one that was pretty bad actor, and I'd done some natural horseman stuff, ship stuff. And I've also done some pretty right on cowboy stuff in my career. But we were laughing about some of the stuff that he'd maybe seen in his front yard that might not have been the most, when you wouldn't see in a hunter ring, let's put it that way. And so then I sort of started looking for something else to do. And then we had it was another bad year. I don't know how much you guys follow the sort of accidents in the system, but they sort of seem to go in cycles, right? Like it seems like we don't have an accident for a while and we have one or two, and then we have these years that are just brutal. And so it was the year Philippa Humphreys died at Jersey Fresh. There were 8 others globally that year. And I had this thought in my mind about this program since Amanda's accident. And sort of came a little bit to fruition through the article I wrote in 2008 for, rider responsibility. And it just all built and built and built and built. And then when we decided to do it, I pretty much hit the ground running. I mean, we were up and running in 9 months with LandSafe. So that's how we got to LandSafe. And since then, I mean, now you guys can ask me the questions about LandSafe.
Totally. So what year was that you took the 9 months and actually officially launched LandSafe?
Oh man, I guess that was 15. God, I'm old now. I'm 53, so you guys can't ask me dates
Looks
like
like
that.
Kinsey
Yeah,
did her
yeah.
research. She was nodding.
Yeah. So,
So
15.
around
I think
2015.
we launched at the USEA convention in 2016. And so that was the year that we started. And basically what I did was I just, I had this vision in my head, and literally I wish I should have pulled it out, but I have a horrible, horrible sketch of the original concept of the simulator, which is just like some sort of catapult system, which is on a napkin. And I do still have it one of these days. I'm going to frame it and put it next to the picture of the real machine. And so we started there, and then we started Keli, was a nationally ranked gymnast in her youth. Like, she was very, very good, went to the national championships, got medals. Like, she was a superstar gymnast. And so we just started going to the trampoline park, in all honesty, and just taking the working students. I still had a few horses. I still had a few students, and we'd go there and we'd play and look at things and then I'd go online and just sort of start researching. I'd worked with a guy called Mike Pilato, and Mike is a great guy. He did a lot of research for Charles Owen when they developed the newer helmets. And that goes back to like 2000 and God, I guess 10 that I worked with him. I met him at the Safety Summit in Kentucky. And he's just a brilliant guy. So I'd worked with him for a couple of years on body mechanics and physical training. And so we sort of started to layer these things together. And then I found Lindsay Nyland in Australia. And Lindsay had already sort of started this rider training fall program book. He's actually written a book. And he was doing it more for jockeys in Australia. But the reason I found him was just sort of researching. And I finally found this video, and it was him training his son. And they were doing an exercise on this video, and it was the same exercise that Keli and I were working on at the trampoline park. And so then I was like, okay, he understands it. Mike understands it. I understand it. This is the right path that we're going down. And this guy has already written the book. So I didn't want to write a book. I'm not a writer. I don't have time for that. I'm an action guy. Like, let's go. Let's get this done. Let's get this program going. So I Skyped him, and I sent him an email, and then we Skyped for a bit, and we just hit it off. And we got off of that Skype call, and Keli goes, "We're in Australia, aren't we?" And I said, "Yep, yeah." So we booked 2 tickets, and we went to Australia, and we trained with Lindsay for a couple of weeks. And again, it was very simple because Keli already had this huge gymnastics background. And so we just were able to filter this whole system together. And we flew home, and, by then we had already ordered the gymnastics mats and crash mats, and the machine was being built. And the next thing, it was, December, and we're in Ocala with this machine shooting a video, trying to get ready so we can, that was November, to get it ready for the USEA convention to launch it. And then we did our first clinic in February. So yeah, it was quick. It wasn't quick because 2008 to that time, but I was still competing and couldn't do. So my brain kind of always ticks along, maybe not always for the best, but this one, it was for the best. So
the wheels are turning.
Yeah. They were turning in the right direction for once. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Keli is your wife and co-founder, former upper level gymnast. Does she have a riding background as well?
Yeah. So that's how we met, actually. She, it's this story of it, right? So she came as a working student and stayed and took over and ran the barn, and we got married. But she rode through the long. She did Morven at the 1 star, the long format 1 star. So awesome. She rode through the long format 1 star level, and didn't really want to ride at the upper levels. Like she always says, like that speed at that size obstacle wasn't really her thing. But her organizational skills are beyond belief. And so she ran the barn, she organizes everything, and still does. She runs Warrington Eventing, which is me flying around doing clinics still. And she runs LandSafe, which is our program going around the country, and literally can design the program that we leave here in August into a circle navigation in the United States and we never backtrack. I mean, that's impressive, right? Like, I got to give her credit.
It's amazing. Every co-founder relationship needs the organized one. And anybody who's been a Ride IQ member for longer than a day knows who's the organized one between me and Kinsey. it's not me. But yes, that is definitely a necessary role to keep things, to have something that's going to be sustainable and make an impact and whatnot. So, okay. So to recap, you were seeing what we've all seen, which is, fatalities and serious injuries that are really disturbing, and kind of seeing that happen, wondering how that could change. Did your mind go to teaching people how to like react to the falling or practice falling, or was that something that was kind of sparked by Lindsay's work? Can you tell us like what your thesis was about how to make it safer based on what you were seeing?
Yeah, pretty easy, right? So two things happen, right? And I'm not talking about, a lot of people think we're teaching you how to fall off. I'm not teaching you how to fall off. I don't know how you're going to fall off, right? I have no clue how you're going to fall off. I'm teaching you how to impact the ground in the best way possible in every scenario, right? Just about in every way, the way you're going to hit the ground, you want to be round, you want to have your chin to your chest, you want to have your arms in some way, shape, or form protecting your head, right? That's what you want to do. And so it's not hard, it's not complex. You can watch any action movie. You can get a feeling for some guy jumping out of a car, a stunt person, watch them work. And so the quick answer is riders have catastrophic head injury and they have crush injury. So catastrophic head injury means you didn't decelerate the impact with your hands and your head hit first. Now, there have been catastrophic head injuries where they have, but the majority of the ones that we look at, their hands were still on the reins. So there was no deceleration of impact. And so therefore the head hit the ground first. Now, here's the mythology in that, right? Well, the helmet's supposed to save you. That helmet's not saving you because that's the brain movement inside of that skull. That is different. That is brain shear and that is neck injury, right? So that's different than skull fracture and skull abrasion, which is what the helmet is for. And then MIPS technology takes some of that angular rotation out of it, but direct head impact, that helmet inside the brain doesn't do much up until recently, like even within the NFL, right? Like that's a really big problem, right? So then you back that up with a crush injury. And so you say, okay, now the horse landed on you. Okay, so why did the horse land on you? And so if you look at simple videos, right? Anybody out there can pick up a video and look at a fall and look at where the rider's eyes are, where they were, and where the horse landed and where they landed, and do that 3,000 times. And you will come to the same conclusion that we did, right? You have got to look for a way out. You've got to look for an escape route that pulls your eyes out, which helps your shoulders get out, which do. And again, you can just, like the article that I wrote for Practical Horseman, that was Phillips. I mean, you can see the shift in his eye in that moment, and you see it pulls him to the side and the horse goes next to him. And you can look at the fall of the Mullen, and you can watch that rider's eyes go straight into the ground, and you can watch the horse's leg go through the panel and pull the horse to the side, right? Like, so I've looked at hundreds and hundreds of rotational falls. And then you take your average Joe Schmo, and I shouldn't say Joe Schmo because that sounds condescending, your average fall, and you watch the rider look right between the horse's ears and right into the ground. And you go, okay, well, that's not very good, right? So they never looked for an escape route. Eyes were into the ground, rider went into the ground, head first, hands still in the rein, neck, back, spine, TBI. Right? So it's not, go ahead.
Those riders are freezing in the moment. Is like the riders who aren't looking for their escape route, they're kind of, this doesn't happen every day. So they're freezing and kind of committing to wanting to stay on, even though that's not going to happen. Is that right?
Yeah. So look, if I walk up to you right now and you're sitting in a chair, but if you were sitting in like I'm sitting on a stool, right? If I were to walk up and push you, the first thing you would do is drop your hands and grab a hold of the stool. It's human nature. It's like human nature. Like that's what you want to do. I'm sitting on this. I'm going to hold on to it. that's kind of a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's an issue. And so our instinct is to hold on, right? And I say this in all my clinics, and if anybody out there has seen it, you've heard it before, you're going to hear it again. But humans, right? We hold on to bad things. Yeah, we hold on to bad relationships, bad stocks, bad investments, bad horses. Like we like to hold on to stuff. This horse is falling. This is going down. You need not hold on to it. You need to protect yourself, right? And so that's what this whole machine was built for, was to walk you through the next 500 milliseconds.
So, oh shoot, I just messaged Kinsey and I was like, I have one more. Now I have 100 more, of course. But Kinsey, I will ask just one more. Actually, we were chatting with the Carters, Kyle and Jen, earlier, and Kyle suggested this one. I'm just pulling it up so I get it right. He said, having always been taught to fight to stay on, what's the point you should bail, in your opinion? And how do you feel that someone could actually identify that moment if they're in a competition or just schooling and like it's happening?
Well, I don't teach bail. And I definitely try to I teach impact. I don't teach bail. Kyle's been in enough falls that he knows the difference. You know, it's that oh crap moment, right? It's when, and it's not bail, right? It's not. It's how do you impact the ground? Did you get your hands up? Did you get your chin to your chest? There's a thought in your brain that goes, this horse left long, this horse chipped in, this horse added up. And at that moment, you have to start to think about is he going to stay on his feet, right? And so I challenge that question to, then that becomes about experience, right? And so if you've never felt that oh crap moment, if you've never felt a horse go beyond the vertical, which isn't even beyond the vertical, like a rotational fall, once that horse gets to a certain point, it's going to go, right? And so again, it's a matter of flying through the air, right? Like it's, it's not bail, and it's impact. And I think that's again, we're going to get into, hopefully we're going to get into more mythology about stuff. Like, I don't know, stay on that thing till it gets up, like it, but you also know, like, I say, I had a horse go down with me at Delaware Park one day at the last fence, and he was still on this plane, right? So he was still up, all four legs underneath him, sliding on his belly. And I can remember sitting on him going, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. And I watched he's sliding on his belly. And I watched his nose tuck underneath of him. And I went, oh, he's going. And I just stood up, like literally stood up in my stirrups and took off running. And he, sort of rolled over, and I ran and sort of ducked out of the way of underneath the sort of what would have been the inside rail, but it was cones, because it was kind of just past the turn there. So anyway, and that all happened when you look at that on the replay, that happens in a fraction of a second, right? But all that time is in your mind. And I, again, it goes to, I've watched, lots and lots and lots of videos, and I watch riders that are in that moment, get their hands out in front of them. And I watch riders in that moment that don't, right? And that's all I'm talking about, is those that have some sort of personal responsibility and some sort of reflex action that they have been taught, told, or understood, right? I think it's very, very important that people understand that we do not, and I are pretty much here. Kyle and I are the same age here, or close to. And, we grew up in a different era. We didn't have car seats, right? We argued seat belts. And so we would get a little bit rough and tumble. This last generation, these generations coming, are a bit more protected from the get-go. So their self-defense, natural instincts to protect themselves are a bit hindered. They've taken a lot of physical education programs out of schools. Sports have been dumbed down to protect. And so you start to stack these things up against what self-defense is, and you're sending people out to go cross country, to go show jumping, to go trail riding, to do whatever on a horse, and they can't even do a simple forward roll. Simple forward roll. Tuck your chin to your chest, right? That's all. That's all I'm asking. Get your hands out, understand deceleration, understand that you need to be firm in that moment, right? And that's it. That's all. But it's not there. So, if you say to me, well, my instructor taught me, then great, that's good. Then you know how to roll. I mean, Tommy Turvey, who trains the horses for the Walking Dead, I got to meet him at Harrisburg. You think I'm nuts? That guy makes me look calm. He's wild, man. I love him. But he said in all of his actors that come to do that show, whether they're getting led onto set or whether they're going to do some sort of riding on their own because there's sort of an established rider they claim to be or whatever, he said he teaches them and makes them roll before they're allowed to ride. And that's for guys that are like getting led across the set and they're going to green screen them out. So how are you, I use Cindy and Timmy a lot. How are you, Cindy, who started riding in a riding program, rides around the ring, rides, never has an experience and then has a rotational? What is your exit strategy? What is your plan? What is your where are you at with this thing? You weren't running around jumping off playing games. You weren't playing, polo cross. Everything's perfect until it's not. And so I think that you have to have an honest conversation about what happens when, right? And what are you responsible for and what you can and can't do.
Absolutely. And I think one thing, like part of this topic, a big part of it is debunking some of the myths around rider falls. And you've hit on some of them already for sure. But what are some that you haven't mentioned yet that you think are important for people to know about this topic?
Well, I think that the two most important things. Well, let's go through. Let's go. 1, don't stick your arms out. 2, relax. 3, there's nothing you can do. Okay? So those are the 3. So you guys are going to help me stay on track and hit all 3 of those because I won't go down. I'll try to make sure that I hit all them. 1, don't stick your arms out when you fall. Okay. Well, then there's no deceleration of impact. Your head hits the ground first. That's spine back TBI, right? Like that's the end. There's no argument in that. And everything else, the defense mode is to protect your head and neck in this area, right? I just did a thing this weekend, sorry to show you my ugly hand, to protect this area, right? So boxers, fighter, everything, right? Like all of it. This is what you have to protect, your head and your neck. This is what you must protect. No, I'm not saying don't wear a helmet. I'm not excusing helmets. I'm not taking value away from helmets, but no helmet is going to protect your neck, right? No helmet is going to protect the amount of power that it goes into the ground when it goes head first. If MIPS technology is 11 to 15 millimeters of rotation to reduce concussion, imagine what 24 inches of extended arm can do to slow that down, to block that ground, right? That's 1. Arms must go out. That's not an argument. That's not a question, right? Like that's not. I hear this all the time, and it makes my blood boil. Well, you'll break your arm. Good, super. That's not a problem. That is great. You break your arm. Yep. So you have to deal with that for a couple of weeks. Try breaking your neck. Yeah. Try breaking your spine. Try having a TBI. And I'm not talking about a concussion. I'm talking about TBI, right? Like I'm not talking about like, oh, I don't feel good. I'm talking about life-rendering changes, catastrophic brain injury. Yeah. So yeah, you got to stick those arms out. So yes, if you're going to play an extreme sport, there must be some sort of sacrificial lamb out there that's going to protect you from the ground. Yep. And from the horse, right? From the horse kicking at you. Yep. From the horse landing on you. From the horse, right? Like, you have to be aware of those things. So that's arms. 2, just relax when you fall. So what I want you to do, I want you to stand in the middle of the room, right? And I want you to let your big brother or your dad or your best friend come running at you full speed and see if you don't tighten up every muscle in your body, okay? And when they're on the plane and the plane's gone down, do they say relax for impact or do they say brace for impact? Simple, right? Brace for impact. Yeah. That's myth 2. 3. There's not enough time. Average fall time is 750 milliseconds from air to ground. Human reaction time is 250 to 500 milliseconds. That gives you 250 free milliseconds. All you got to do is get your hands up. All you got to do is get your chin to your chest, and you can change the outcome. Now, when I break videos down for riders that have come to me and go, there's nothing you can do. And I go, show me your last fall on video. And my upper level riders that I'll use Buck for an example. Buck, when I first started this, he's like, look at this fall. And I showed him frame by frame what he did in that moment. And he goes, I didn't even think about it. And I said, I know, that's the problem. So you don't think you did anything. You don't think that you made any conscious decision or you did anything. And I said, here's the proof that you did. So yes, there is time. Not always. Look, I've woken up in the MRI, right? I've fallen, I've broken. I'm still trying to heal some of the things that I've done, right? I'm not saying that this is foolproof. I'm saying that if I change the outcome of 1 in 10 falls, I've reduced it by 10%. Give me a chance, right? Give self-defense. You don't have to give me a chance. Go take a martial arts class. Go take gymnastics on your own. I don't care. You don't have to take my program, but I understand that you've got to take some responsibility to protect yourself in a fall.
Totally. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So you mentioned that there often is time to react in the way that you should be reacting. And you mentioned put your hands out, put your chin to your chest. Are there other things are there other checklist things that people could know about that they could think about ahead of a fall so that when the fall happens, it might be more instinctual?
We always sort of ask, like, what's the last thing that runs through your mind when you're going to fall off? And people say, oh shit. Well, if you have enough time to say, oh shit, or oh crap, excuse me, we're on national, whatever. Oh crap, right? Then you have enough time to stick your arms out and bring your chin to your chest, right? So if you do those 2 things, you've already reduced the potential for injury. You've already reduced it. I'm not saying you're not going to get hurt. I'm saying you reduced it. You have to do. If you can get your back rounded, right? Like if you can get your back round, so when you do hit the ground, that helps some deceleration of impact for the whiplash of the neck. If you can have some neck strengthening where you can actually hold your chin to your chest when you hit and not let your head, like go to the ring and watch somebody fall off or watch them land on their butt, watch them fall backwards and watch them let their head unleash and just smack into the ground. Well, that's just unnecessary. It's just completely unnecessary. It's unawareness. It's not strength. It's not strong enough. I'm not saying you won't get whipped, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying if you do everything right, you still won't get whipped. You may, but if you have no idea that you should be really gritting your teeth and trying to hold that chin to your chest when you hit the ground so your head doesn't bobble, and you're playing an extreme sport. Come on, play an extreme sport.
Totally.
Yeah. So you, with your LandSafe clinics, I know that you kind of run riders through this, and so they're practicing it on your simulator. How many times have you found that it takes for a rider to practice this until this becomes habit?
So I don't know who would let me use their name or who wouldn't let me use their name, but let's just go with someone that rode around Kentucky a few times, and she's younger, up and coming, did the program once, had a rotation on a corner, and sent me a text and said, thank you. Because when that horse was inverted, she thought enough to get away from it. She goes, well, I didn't roll. I'm like, you're not going to roll. Like at that element, you're not going to roll. You're just going to decelerate the impact. And she goes, oh, I thought I did something wrong. I'm like, no, did you call me? You didn't do anything wrong. You know what I mean? Like if you did something wrong, you wouldn't be making this phone call right now. So, I think I would love the program to be 6 days long, right? Like, so, we do 2 days. It should be 6, because at the end of 6 days, I've got you pretty good. If you do that over 2 years, over 6 months, over 2 weeks, right? Like I don't care. Like, I don't know. I know that I'm surprised a little bit by how much of an impact we make in a 2-day session. Like I'll be honest, I'm truly surprised by how much of an impact that makes. Because when I designed the program, here's two misconceptions of my program. One, I didn't design it for everyone. I designed it for the under 25 developing rider program for the USEA. That's who I designed it for, right? I want the young kids coming up to understand this while they're young, while they're able to learn these things, to do these things. And so, yes, does it work for the 60, the 50-year-old adult amateur that is, trying to go beginner novice? Yes, it helps them. It helps them a ton. It gives them confidence. It takes the fear of falling away, which is great on its own, right? Then it gives them some tools. Tuck your chin. Like simple stuff like tuck your chin. I can't show you. I mean, I had to sit a thing at the EAP the other day. I got picture after picture after picture of kids just flying through the air like this. Just chin just up, just hitting the ground, just forehead first, just chin up. You're, like really? You didn't even think like you might want to roll? Like you might tuck your chin? Like, come on. There's some, I'm not trying to make people nationally ranked gymnasts here, right? I don't expect you to roll out and stand up like Simone Biles or something, right? Like just tuck your chin to your chest, get an arm or a leg or something between your head and the ground and slow down that impact. That's all.
In lessons, people are used to hearing eyes up, chin up, and there's the moment when your brain has to go chin down.
Yeah.
Time to tuck.
Yep.
So I think Kinsey and I are familiar with LandSafe. I think a lot of people probably have been exposed to it to some extent, but let's back up a second and just make sure that people are understanding what LandSafe kind of entails. So you have a simulator that people can actually get on, and there's like tumbling mats so they can practice falling off. But can you walk us through what those 2 days are like, how you're helping people, how you're teaching people, educating them, and then letting them like put into practice what you're teaching them?
Yeah. So when you get there, like it's pretty funny because everybody's, apprehensive because, you have no idea, right? When you go to if you go to a Leslie Law clinic, you pretty much know that you're going to jump jumps, right? You do some flat work, you go cross country. When you come to a LandSafe clinic, most people are like, what are we going to do here? Like I kind of watched the video and I don't really know. So we basically treat everyone like they have never, ever rolled. And for the most part, we're right. But we treat everybody that way. So we give you some basic stretching. Then we give you some basic body shapes that you're going to need throughout the weekend. That takes 15 minutes, right? Then we start teaching you how to roll. Okay. And we teach you from your knees, like all fours to a chin, to an angry cat, to a forward roll. And we do that and we do that. And then we get you on your feet. And then we start doing shoulder rolls, and then we do another couple of rolls, and then we start doing dive rolls, and then we start to speed it up, and then we start to do it with elevation, and then we start to do it with, a little bit here and there. And I'm chasing people around with a pool noodle and hit them in the head because they let me hit them in the head, right? Cover yourself up and try to kind of make a bit of a game of it and get you thinking about what you're doing. And then once you have, after the first day or at the end of the gymnastics part of the first day, which takes about 2 hours to get 10 people proficient in rolling, we move you to the simulator for rotational falls. And basically all we're doing is teaching you how to do a forward roll off a horse. Just do a forward roll. Just reach out with your hands, get your chin to your chest, and watch what happens, right? Like just watch the difference in that and get confident with that. You can roll from this height. You can roll from this angle. You can do this. This is not hard. You don't be afraid of the ground, right? Like that's my big thing. And so we just get them confident with that. And when you come back on the second day, basically we just refresh it, right? We just keep it going. We build on what we learned the first day in the gymnastics program. And then we put you back on the machine for an off the shoulder, which we call, basically that's the average fall. That's a horse wheeled and now you're kind of holding on, but now you're not holding on anymore. How do you manage that? And then we do a rear, just teaching people how to get away from a horse that's going to flip over the best that you can. And then emergency dismounts. And when you come back again, if you do your level 2, basically we start to thin out the mats. We give you your helmet and your body vest. We start to speed things up. We do some things because now we're aware of what you can do and how fast we can push you. And then when you come back on the third time, it's real easy. You warm up, you do some rolls. We take all the mats away except for the little thin one. and then we let you roll in your gear. We put you on the horse. We throw you off a couple of times. And if time allows, and if you're interested, then I can show you some other things that I learned by, breaking yearlings most of my life, and just sort of keep your mind fresh. And then, we have what we call a refresher course, which is like people that have been through it, and you just come and warm up, and we'll throw you off the horse twice, and you can be done. And I remember one year I went 64 race rides without a fall. And at the end of the year, I was pretty I was like, oh boy, like this is coming, right? Because like that's a long time to go without falling.
I think we might have lost him.
I have faith. He's coming back. Well, in the meantime, we can read. There's a chat message. I'm sure Danny will be back the second I start reading it. Can you tell who the chat message is from, Kins?
Claire.
Okay.
Oh, Danny?
There he is.
Yeah, I'm back. Yep. Yeah, you guys lost me for a minute. That was cyberspace, but I'm back now.
We lost you at you knew you were due for a fall after 64
It was
rides.
a cliffhanger.
Oh, yeah. And so I would have just really liked to have been able to do that. And so like we have some riders that just every once in a while would be like, hey, I haven't fallen off in a while. Can I get on and fall off? And I'm like, yes, but that's what we want, right? Because then that takes away that anxiety, right? That can build up as well. And so I just want to know if I still got it. Am I still quick enough to get out of there? Am I still thinking the right way, right? And so there's a lot more to the psychology of it, I think, that people will over time understand that, right? And the benefits to knocking that dust off, to not being afraid of it. I always sort of say race riding will you're not afraid of falling because we do it quite often, right? We're afraid of the horses behind us, right? That's the fear in racing, is that, look, hitting the ground isn't so bad. Like you can manage that, right? You can decelerate that impact. You can, for the most, again, I have to be careful because somebody's always going to call me out of, well, you could look, I'm talking in general. I'm talking percentages, right? And so I can manage that, but what I can't manage is the horses behind me. And so what that does is that allows me to manage the ground on the impact. And then because I manage the ground on the impact, I go into a small ball so that the horses behind me can't step on me. Well, all of those things sort of, if you do it the other way, because I get in that small ball, I roll. Because I roll, there's less impact. Because there's less impact, there's less injury, right? All this makes sense, right? Well, it's not because I was afraid of the ground. It's because I was afraid of the horses behind me. So what are you afraid of? There's no horses behind you in this sport, right? Except for the one. And you've already looked to get out of the way. So if you know how to manage that and you're thinking your way through it, right, then you have a better chance. And that's all I'm trying to teach you is like, look, there are things that you can do. There are things that you should do. And there's things that may or may not happen. But you need to have some tools in your tool belt.
Totally.
That's, yeah.
I mean, after talking to you, it feels just very wild that there was a pre-LandSafe, Kinsey and the tools we had in our tool belt growing up was learning how to emergency dismount, which I never did once in my life in actuality, but they were like wanting us to like land on our feet, if things got bad, and that isn't really, where the real danger lies. So yeah, it seems wild that this still isn't in a lot of people's tool belts, but thank goodness that you're doing the work. Are steeplechase riders or like jockeys that are at a regular racetrack, are they embracing this sort of thing?
At this point, I'm not even really trying. Like my focus is on the eventing, and now sort of leaning towards the show jumping. In England, the British Racing School has an entire fall training section in their program. They have a simulator there as well. They go through a gymnastics program. They run through it is part of their school. It is part of their thing. The American Jockey School in Kentucky, they sort of phased it out a little bit because of I won't get into that, but they sort of phased it out a little bit. So we are focused. My focus is at this point the developing riders of first the eventing, of second the hunter, the show jumpers, right? And then if time allows, I'm getting old, guys, right? Like if time allows, I'll get to the next one. I don't know how long this is going to take. You know, Lindsay Nyland's doing a lot of research and spending the academic, right, portion of this thing. They just released another study from, you know, through the Sweden, and I posted it somewhere, but about the research of fall training and fall safety training and the effects of it. And it's all, you know, it's one of those things. It's like, look, you can listen to me now, or you can read it later. I'm not academic. I still am in contact with Lindsay. He's still a great influence on what we do. He writes something, he does something. I call him. I'm like, are we still on the right track? He's like, yep. I'm like, good. You know, like I that's not my thing. I'm not, that's not what I do. Right. I'm not into numbers and data. I have it, right. It's all in the books, right. I mean, I can call Mike Pilato. Tony Sandoval's another one who's a great sports medicine guy, as athletic trainer, and Lindsay, and I can sort of bounce these things off them, and they have all the data points. So I don't really need it. I drive around the country teaching people how to do it.
Yeah, we need one of every type.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a LandSafe clinic is like, and going through the LandSafe like different curriculum is really the perfect opportunity for riders. What do you really recommend, like when riders leave your clinic, or if a rider doesn't have access to one of your clinics, what can we tell them as a recommendation for ways that they can work on these drills on their own? Is there really a way to train this without attending a clinic?
Well, people said, would you put a video up? Like, can I go online? Like, this is the whole thing. No, right? Because one, you'll hurt yourself. If you go trying to do a running dive roll without any lead up to that, like that's probably not going to do the right thing. When people leave our clinic, basically what I tell them is to play. Like, you could do a lot of this stuff literally on your bed at night, play, right? At some point, adult amateurs, adult professionals, we stop playing, right? And so you start in this protective mode. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I've played extreme sports my whole life. I water ski, I snow ski, I ride horses, I ride bikes at a stupid level, right? Like I do dumb things a lot. So I fall a lot. So I'm quite rehearsed in it. And so I sort of recommend playing anything that you can do that is hand-eye coordination, right? Take a martial arts course. If you don't want to come to LandSafe, don't come to LandSafe. Go take a martial arts course. Learn some self-defense. Learn some hand-eye coordination. And it's like you said, I think it was you, Jess, that said about you're always told to keep your chin up, keep your hands on the reins. So if I tell you for 5 years, I say, Jess, keep your eyes up, keep your hands on the rein, keep your eyes up, keep your hands on the rein, look between the horse's ears, keep your eyes up, keep your hands on the rein, shorten the rein, tighten the rein. What happens when that horse rolls over? What do? Keep your eyes up, tighten the rein. What is that going to do? It's going to pull you inside the circle of rotation. So can you have some drills? Can you use your imagination and maybe go through a grid and go drop the rein, pick up the rein? Sure, you can do that. Look for a way out, pick up the rein, right? Sure, you can do that. Why can't you do that? Because we practice perfect, but then when perfect doesn't happen, we're unprepared. Ooh, that sounded really good. I should write that down.
We got you. We'll write
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. But that's the thing, right? And so I run and did when I had a barn. You know, we ran a lot of no-handed stuff and a lot of dexterity stuff through grid lines where it's relatively safe, right? Like you're in a grid, the striding's not an issue. Drop the rein, pick up the rein, look for like all of that stuff to make you aware. Somebody posted a video the other day of a girl catching a football in the middle of a grid, and I thought, what's wrong with that? As long as the horse is okay with it, you know what I mean? Like to get you out of this. My eyes go between that horse's ears, and I shorten the rein and keep my chin up, right? Because there has to be what if then, right? Like it's all great everything is great until, right? Like that's the whole thing. And you say, well, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. But at the same time, every time you get on an airplane, they tell you where the air mask is, where the life jacket is, where the emergency exits are, and everybody still flies, right? So you can have a conversation about safety, right? In this industry, especially the equestrian industry, we talk a lot about safety. We don't do anything about safety. And the more I do this, the more parents I meet that are involved in the oil and gas industry, especially. The OSHA, contractors, builders, they talk about OSHA, they talk about safety, they talk about cows, they talk about all these things that are safety, right? We strap on a helmet and off you go. There you go, you're safe now, good. Maybe a pair of peacock stirrups or something like that, which really at the end of the day are very questionable whether true, like a safety stirrup is a safety stirrup. That is a different system. And so are we truly educated in safety equipment, safety products, safety, or are we putting on a helmet and saying you're good to go, right? I mean, it's insane. You give somebody a can of bear spray and say, go into the woods. That's not really the right training if they don't know what to do with the pepper spray or when the bear approaches them, right? Like you're not thinking this all the way through.
Yeah, one thing that you said earlier that really resonated with me was you mentioned stunt doubles and watching them, whatever they're doing, jump out of a car or whatever. But obviously they train to do that. And as riders, if you ride enough, you're going to fall off, right? And not knowing what to do in that instance does seem like a big miss. And we do lean on equipment in a big way, So yeah, it's just a good thing for people to recognize and, embrace, because it does get kind of old just to be like, it's not safe, it's horrible, these things happen, efforts are important. So I mean, the equipment's important too.
And it's, to me, it's a little bit about the whole mass shooting stuff. It's like, and somebody put one up the other day. It's like mass shooting, uproar, upheaval, nothing, right? Like, and it's sort of the same thing. We go through these cycles of a lot of injuries, and everybody gets their knees in a twist, and we do this and we do that. And, one of the worst falls I've ever seen was on the flat. Like, there wasn't a jump involved. You know what I mean? And plenty of time to react and all of these things. And you're like, we can't just make the jumps safer, right? We can't just make the I want to say the qualifications harder, right? We can't just do that. We have to, at the end of the day, educate the rider, right? Like you have to have some responsibility to what are you going to do when you hit the ground? It's just interesting. Like go pick up YouTube or whatever and just watch the rodeo. Here's one. Watch basketball. Now you think about this, because this is I find this very interesting. Watch basketball players and watch how hard, when they fall backwards, watch how hard they fight not to let their heads hit the ground. Watch how hard. Like the next time you see a basketball player, watch what they're doing and watch how hard they're fighting not to let their head hit the ground. And then watch somebody fall off their horse and watch how little they do. Now, I understand there's more impact because you're coming from a higher height, but I'm saying that the intensity of that, right? And the education of it and how much they practice that, right? They work at that. They neck strengthen, they condition, they do this on purpose.
That's a great point. Basketball wouldn't have come to mind for me as one of those sports, but thinking to the games I've watched, of course, like you see them every single game crashing into the court, but yeah, not on their head, never on their head.
Yeah.
They know and what, like, a lot.
Yeah. And they do. And it was funny because I just did this thing, and a girl she was in college and played in college, and she was like, yeah, we drill that. She was like, we drill that. I'm like, well, I think that's great. You should drill that. It's a hardwood floor. You don't have to fall from far on a hardwood floor to make that happen. I mean, obviously, you can watch the rodeo. You can watch those things. You can watch this. You can find this 4-point landing. You can see it. Once you see what a 4-point landing is, which is like knees, hands down, right? So 4 points, hands and knees. Yeah. And then you're in this angry cat shape with your chin to your chest, right? So that is the 4-point landing. If you know what that is, start to look for it, right? You will see it everywhere, except in the equestrian world, which is where really, in the English equestrian world, I want to be a little bit more, clear. I think the Western world, it comes, the rodeo guys, especially, maybe not the barrel races. Maybe I don't know, because I'm not there yet, right? I'm focused on this right now. But I can tell you when I see a bull rider go up, or I see a saddle bronc rider coming off or whatever, I can see as well with them when that's going to work out and when it's not. And it's just, it's not hard. It's really not.
Yeah. Well, that's the good news for sure, because it's like the small effort, big reward type of thing. Okay, so Liz is in chat and she said I've ridden and hosted in LandSafe clinics and I've loved them. She said, Danny, what is the one or two things that you see people do out on course at competitions that we as amateurs do but should not be doing safety wise?
Ooh. I don't, that's like a loaded question, I think. Yeah. Where do you start? I think, I sort of always go back to this, and I think this, I know this isn't probably the answer that you're looking for, because I don't necessarily think that professionals are more prepared for safety than amateurs are, right? I don't necessarily think that that's true. I think that would be wishful thinking. And then that would be a definition of a professional, right? Like is Philip or Boyd or Buck or, Tammy Smith more prepared for an incident than Cindy, right? And the answer to that is yes, because of experience, right? They've had horses fall. They've ridden 10 horses on the day. They're more aware of the footing. They're more aware of the way the lines are riding, right? And so they're more aware because of the experience level, I think, than they are actually. So the experience would be the difference, I think, in the safety. Now, saying that, I think that they may also have a better ability to make sure that they are what I call the 3 R's, right? Right horse, right level, right rider. Yep. And so they have their horses at the level, or should do, right? At the level that this is supposed to be. They are riding at the level appropriate for them, right? And those 3 things add up on the right horse, on the horse with the skills to do the job. So you got the right horse, the right rider, and the right level. I don't necessarily think that there's I don't think that the professionals have a better warm-up series that they're doing back in the barn that makes them better prepared to go out. And in fact, I think some of the professionals may not even understand the quality of their helmets. MIPS versus Snell versus plastic versus carbon fiber versus air vest versus not air vest versus, you know what I mean? I think that there, and this week goes back to, I think we talk about safety in this industry, but I don't think that everyone is quite up to speed on all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting a lot of stories in chat of people who have attended your LandSafe clinic, and it's really impacted their life, which is awesome. And
I hope that's in a positive way.
No, in a very positive way. So you've mentioned a few times about how it's there's a strength involved with keeping your chin to your chest when you're falling, and how basketball players run through drills that will help build that strength. Are there any sort of exercises or things that you recommend riders be doing on their own in order to increase their ability to execute that properly?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a big shout out, and you guys should interview him too, Tony Sandoval. If you haven't talked to him, if he hasn't been on Ride IQ yet, get him on. And then what I recommend for any of that is I'm not a personal trainer. I'm not qualified to do that. That is not my background. I'm qualified to teach you how to roll. I'm qualified to run my program, and I'm qualified to teach you how to ride to a pretty high level. I'm not qualified I'm not a sports medicine guy. I've studied with them, but I don't have a degree, and I'm not willing to sort of say. But I am very confident in saying, if you want to do something to help yourself reduce concussion, strengthen your neck, right? To the point of, very simply, look at lacrosse players and football players, and you'll see that they have a schmeck, their shoulders go straight to their ears, right? And that's so they can withstand that hit. so that their head doesn't blow back. Tony was saying at one of the colleges that he's working with or was working with was saying that they think that if a football player sees a hit coming, they should be able to withstand that impact enough not to get a concussion. If you get blindsided, sort of that's another thing. But if you can hold against that, right, like hold that head still, then the brain doesn't slosh inside. And so that does become very, very important when you're talking about concussion, and even more so than, the technology. And I do remember talking to someone about, I think it was University of Michigan, said that they did neck strengthening, but at the same time, the MIPS helmet came in, but they had reduced concussion by 50% on their football team. And so this neck strengthening thing is pretty key. It's pretty important. I know, I can tell you if you lay on the edge of your bed and lift your head up and down, that, that's a simple way. But, I don't want to start telling people because there's you may have some neck issue. And then I tell you, oh, you should use a resistance band tied to the door. And the next thing, your surgeon's calling me, telling me that I shouldn't have said that. So yeah, I definitely recommend seeing your professionals about that. But there are definitely exercises you can do, and definitely reach out to my man, Tony, because he is awesome.
We are big fans of Coach Sando. And
nice.
I love when there's a benefit of people tuning in live. I don't know if Kinsey edits my little secrets out when I bring things up live, but things are in the works with Coach Sando and Ride IQ, which I am so excited about because he just brings so much passion and expertise to the fitness side of riding. And the sport is so lucky to have him putting his energy behind what he's doing. So for anyone who's listening who doesn't know Coach Sando, you will soon. And you can look him up on your own as well, because he really is as great as Danny's describing him to be. So, Danny, I knew this hour would happen so fast. And we still have questions in chat. But I wanted to, because we're on the hour, I wanted to kind of zoom out and ask you what your favorite part of your job, what your favorite part about LandSafe and your job is.
The emails, and there's two types of emails. One is, I just feel so much more confident in my riding, right? Like I'm so grateful for having the thought process of there's, sort of helping to remove the fear of falling and helping to do that. And then the one that says, man, I had a rotational and I got my hands out and I got my chin in my chest and I rolled away, or this horse bucked me off and I landed and got out of the way, or this horse, like we get those. I think we get a lot of those, and I think that's the job. I'm horrified of the day that I get the other one, and the other one will come. But I hope that one is such a small number, and that you've affected so many people in a positive way that's then just becomes sort of the numbers game a little bit. But yeah, the best part about my job is giving people confidence and helping people not get hurt. Like I said, I champion if you break your arm. You break your arm, you break your collarbone. I'm good with that. And like you can still do a lot of things. When you have that catastrophic injury that could have been avoided with a little bit of education, I think that we need to do that.
Yeah, we can wear those arm casts proud. I can see the arm cast brought to you by LandSafe. It's a good thing. Kinsey and I were at the USEA annual meeting / convention last year, and we met a mom of 2 riders, and she was raving about LandSafe because her daughter had a fall. And this woman's name is Nicole. She was just talking to us about how the daughter after the fact was like, it was amazing. Like, I knew what to do and I did it. And I mean, as a parent, that has to, kids think they're invincible. As a parent, hearing that has to be such a relief. And each time you've brought it up just in this conversation, I get chills. I can't help it. It's like the most amazing thing. And it's really just so admirable that you're not on the sidelines watching these injuries happen. You're making a change in a sport that really needs a change. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Thanks for putting all the energy behind it. I know can't be easy. What I'm putting this all together, making it happen. being at kind of the front lines of all this, even just watching the videos, like you described, watching the rotational falls, I would be like, I'm out. But
well,
thank you
that
for doing all of
yeah,
that.
there was that, right? There was like, whew, I couldn't do it when I was riding. Like I literally couldn't. I started to when I was still riding, and I had to stop because I didn't ride well. But I sort of took a couple of weeks off and got back at it. But yeah, that was a problem.
Yeah. Well, it's very cool. And Kinsey and I can't wait until our paths cross when you have the mechanical, what do you call it?
Well, it's a mechanical horse. Yeah, we call it the simulator.
Okay, when you have the simulator out
Just
there.
don't call it a bull. Like that's offensive. Don't call it. It's not a bull. It's not. I always say it's not Timmy's Bar and Grill. Like
Yeah, we're not in a bar.
Yeah.
Are you going to convention this year?
No, we're doing a clinic in where are we? I think we're in Louisiana.
Nice. Okay, so on that note, let's end with where people can find you and find your clinic schedule. What's the best way to follow LandSafe?
Yeah, LandSafe equestrian.com. As soon as we get a clinic on it, it goes onto the website and you can sign up. Strider always has we advertise through Strider. They're the ones that you actually book through. So when you click on our website, it sends you there. Our Facebook, I'm not very good at, but if you're on it, like I know that everybody else sort of posts things on Facebook that they're hosting a clinic in their I say village, their neighborhood, their area. And so that's one way, but our website is up to date. It's up to speed. And always a phone call or a text or whatever. And we're sort of happy to get with you about it.
Good. I love it. Well, Danny, this has been so incredibly eye-opening and educational, and really it's given me a lot of optimism about the future. So thank you again for being with us tonight and just for all